Let me read you guys a story. Okay. R2 is to shoot. Press X. Welcome to That's Debatable. Today's topic is the best plot in the video game. Parameters. Gotta be from a video game. Gotta be a plot.
Elmo decides everything.
Elmo's in a bad mood. Hey, that's Massimo.
Alright, here we go. I think that the best video game plot... I wanted to do the whole series, but this guy over here is pretty stubborn.
I'm Alex.
I went with Kingdom Hearts 1. I think that has the best story, because... Or at least plot. Story, plot, they're the same thing. I'm an idiot.
Yes.
It's a game... It's a game... It's a game that starts with questions and ends answering questions, but still leaves questions.
My choice is the David Cage masterpiece, Heavy Rain, which, if you've played or heard of Heavy Rain, you know that it is a plot. Not so much a game as this is a story. It's essentially an interactive movie, and for that reason, the plot has to be the most important part, and that's why the game works.
I'll be doing The Last of Us by Naughty Dog. I think The Last of Us has such an amazing plot because even though it's set up as a game that just looks like it's about zombies, the whole game is about the relationship between Joel and Ellie and the rest of the humans left, and the development between those two is perfect.
On the point of the development between the two characters, we've seen that done before. If you've played or watched The Walking Dead, you've seen the development between an adult male character and a young girl.
It's so much better in The Last of Us, though.
Something like Kingdom Hearts, you've never seen anything like it. They've taken Disney universes, which are such a beautiful thing, and they've connected them all together into this beautiful game that has such a gorgeous story.
The Last of Us, the very first part of the game is you start out as the main character's little girl, she's walking around, everything's happy, and then the outbreak starts, and then immediately she dies. Like, she dies at the very beginning, and the main character is just heartbroken and now they're just fighting for survival and doesn't care about anything, and he just has the job to take Ellie around, and when they start off, they just hate each other. He wants nothing to do with her because she just reminds him of his daughter. And they go all throughout the city, and as they're with each other, they realize that in this world, they don't have anyone else, and they need each other. Towards the end of the game, when the only way to save the human race is to sacrifice Ellie so they can get the cure, Joel will not do it. He dooms everyone just to save Ellie because he knows that he can't live on without her.
Also, he really didn't doom the entire world because they've tried this test before and it failed every single time.
Did they say that?
Yes, they did. So he really...
And it wouldn't be like
really
saving the
spared
world,
her.
it would be giving a vaccine,
Yeah.
which is different.
Which we don't even know if it would really work.
I still like your choice better, though. Heavy Rain. If we're talking about developing characters and everything like that, especially with the main character, Ethan? I forget.
It's Ethan, yeah.
Okay. Especially with the main character, Ethan, you see him go from this happy father to this utterly, completely broken man.
Jason!
And then when his other son disappears, he kind of is still broken, but he decides that he's not going to let it happen again. He's going to have this strength to just keep pushing through, and he's going to save his son if it's the last thing he's due. If it's the last thing he does, and in certain endings, including mine, it is the last thing he does.
Yeah, those...
Yeah, and
He had it pretty rough, Ethan. Things were tough for him.
And the other, Heavy Rain, I mean, if we're talking about a story, what's really great about a story, and especially the medium of video games, is that you can kind of make it your own story. And what's great about Heavy Rain, there are so many different ways that it can play out. Any of the four characters that you control at any given point can die. Any of them can be present or not present at the ending. It can end so many different ways. I know that Massimo has played it twice, I've played it twice, and my one friend has played it, and you also played it. And I don't think any of us had the same ending.
No.
At any of the playthroughs. Out of 6 different things,
Me
none of
neither.
us had even like remotely close endings. Like kind of close, but not really.
Even though that's good for a game, it's fun. But I think The Last of Us does almost the exact opposite. With all the games about choice, whether they influence the game a lot or a little, usually a little, The Last of Us is a definitive story. Naughty Dog tells the story, and they want the story to end this exact way, and what you do doesn't affect it.
Like,
That's the
don't get
story
me
it's all
wrong.
about.
I'm not saying that something like that is bad, because I love The Last of Us, and a linear story can be great. But I'm saying, in certain cases, that with Heavy Rain's what really worked, that it really gives it a much better sense of danger, and that what you do actually matters, instead of just being able to start the level over. If your character dies, good luck without them for the rest of the game, because they're dead. So you really have to think about what you're doing and really focus on your decisions.
As far as character development goes, in the beginning of Kingdom Hearts, they ask you questions that really make you think about yourself, which I thought was really interesting, and it does influence the game itself in terms of how fast you level up and stuff like that. But I thought that was really interesting that they did that, because it really made you think about yourself, kind of how in Heavy Rain, the whole time I'm thinking about what would I do. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's what I thought was really cool. And then the very first level is you're actually stuck on an island with some of your best friends.
That was so terrible.
No, that was
the worst thing ever.
that was awesome character development. You really got to feel for these people. Understand that all they wanted to do was get off of this island. All they wanted to do was get off of this island and go to other worlds, and they do. And
That was the worst thing ever.
no, it was actually really cool in my opinion.
Well, if we're talking about characters and their inner desires, what you really see more than anything else, especially with the characters of Ethan and Scott Shelby, how would you react in a situation where something bad, like the death of a child or the loss of a child, what would you do, and to what lengths would you go to personally in order to get them back? Because Ethan has to go through 5 challenges. So you learn a lot about yourself in which of the challenges you decide to do. If you decide to do them, there is one challenge when you're supposed to kill a drug dealer. I personally decided that I could not do it, and I did not kill him. And
I killed him. I did.
Okay, well, we know what kind of person Brandon is. See, you're figuring out more about yourself than like.
It's not.
in
It's not
terms
the
of that,
character's choices.
We're not talking about yourself. We're talking about the character's
It's not the character's choices. It's your choices.
We're talking about the story itself.
Which is why the Last of Us is more pertinent, because that's what they're doing. It's what they're doing. That's
and the same thing with Kingdom Hearts.
And another thing about The Last of Us is, you think that, they're zombies, the threat is the zombies. I have to avoid the zombies, kill the zombies. That's not true. The zombies really, in The Last of Us, are not a big threat. You can walk around all of them, except for, 2 parts. You have to fight
that
them.
is pretty true.
You can walk around all the zombies, but when you get to the parts where they are humans, that's the crazy part. Especially the part where Ellie gets kidnapped by, cannibals that want to eat her. That was
the
scary.
most nail-biting part of
That
game.
was intense. I was scared for her.
I can honestly say,
genuinely.
the rest of the game, I think that was the best part of the game.
And most people would agree that at the end it looked like he was going to try to rape Ellie. And she...
Talking about... He's wanting to talk about Joel and Ellie and how, you got your different perspectives. That's kind of what I got from that, is, different perspectives. You get 4 different perspectives. 4 completely different perspectives. One person, Madison, who's not really involved in the whole thing. Shelby, who's been a part of this for a while. Ethan, who is just swept under and has had terrible, terrible things happen to him for his entire life. And Norman, who just wants to do his job and be honest and just try to stop this guy from doing it. You see very different perspectives on the same event. And I really found that the different characters' stories blending together really helped the story.
One of the most important reasons I think Kingdom Hearts is a better game. I don't know about... Do you think that they might make a second one to The Last of Us?
I wouldn't want them to, but they could. They could, but I would not like
it.
They won't. They won't.
I don't know if they would.
They won't.
I don't know either. But, see, in Kingdom Hearts, I know you told me not to go into the other games. I'm going to do it anyway. The story continues. In the beginning of the first one, you're presented with questions. In the end of the first one, you answer some of those questions, but you're presented with more. And it makes you wonder what's going to happen in the second one. And that's a really important thing with plot. Just like the first movie to a second movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But all the Oscar winners, I don't think any of them really have sequels.
No.
except for Lord of the Rings.
Back to
Actually, no, only the third one won. So no.
Back to Heavy Rain. I don't want to put down how great of a game
Better
Heavy
not
Rain
put
is,
down Heavy Rain.
and how intense Heavy
cut
Rain
you.
is. But as far as the story goes, and I've said this before, it's not a solid story. What
Yes,
you
it
do,
is.
No. What you do affects the story.
Therefore, it isn't
there are
solid.
multiple.
It's not-
there
it's
are
not
multiple
a-
ways it can happen. There's no one way that the game ends. But in The Last of Us, it's one story. No matter what you do, it's the same
Yeah,
story.
you already made that point.
I know, I did. But
I
that's
was
the
with
difference.
Heavy Rain, aside from the endings, the decisions you make, although they affect the story, you'll end up on more or less the same plot track.
Kingdom Hearts, like I said, you get a really interesting story about three friends, and two of them go against each other for this girl, and it's so interesting the way that they connected these Disney universes and everything.
When you look at Heavy Rain, you're looking at what has come closest of any game to being an interactive movie. I've said multiple times I'd love to see like a Heavy Rain miniseries on HBO. I think that would be amazing. But anyway, when you're looking at all this stuff, there are so many twists and turns in the plot. It's a mystery. You're trying to figure out who the Origami Killer is. I mean, all these different characters, a lot of drama between them, and I think it's perfect. It's one of my favorite games ever of all time.
Alright, The Last of Us. I think The Last of Us is a great game because it has a totally solid plot. It's very emotional. You can't go through the game without feeling one emotion or another. I don't cry often, and I did cry at the end, and it was a really intense game. I did cry at the end. And it's great because it shows how much relationships mean to people and what it's like to live in a world where there's not many people to talk to, and how scary it can be to find people that have been so twisted by a world that's all this messed up, and how important it is to find one person that you can relate to and be with and that will help you. And I think that's the best part about The Last of Us.
We had a three-way tie, so we had to get multiple outside parties to answer the question, all of which have played the two games because we both decided that The Last of Us was out of the mix.
Let the record show that Brendan, thinking he could win, cut me out of my win.
But we got three different parties, outside parties, to say that Kingdom Hearts was the best plot of any of the three video games.
It's true.
So it is the winner. Final closing words. The power of the Keyblade.
Fuck
I want to
off.
kill